Graveyards have always been thought of as places to be frightened of. The bones and remains of the dead have long been considered as centers of spiritual power, and to disturb a grave has always been thought of as a dangerous procedure. You would think that containing the remains of Christian people buried in consecrated soil, it should be safe enough. But some graveyards are rife with hauntings and with lost souls in search of peace.
Overlooking the River Stour in the quiet hamlet of Borley, between the counties of Essex and Suffolk, there stands a church, Borley Parish Church. The Domesday Book records that as long ago as the 13th century, there was also a monastery on the adjoining site. There is nothing apparently out of the ordinary going on in Borley. The 100 or so inhabitants, including myself, lead a tranquil, seemingly idyllic country lifestyle. Yet in the world of the paranormal, Borley has been recorded as the centre of some remarkable phenomena, and is the site of one of England's most haunted houses, Borley Rectory. One of the monks from the monastery fell in love with a young nun from the nearby convent. The couple planned to elope together, but their plan was discovered and they were both condemned for their disobedience. The monk was sent to the gallows. The nun met her fate by being bricked up alive in one of the cellars of the monastery. In 1863, the Reverend Henry Bull built a new rectory house on the site of the monastery. Soon after this, there came many reported sightings of a mysterious nun wandering around the house and grounds. The Reverend Bull's 4 sisters all reported seeing the same apparition at the same time in broad daylight, floating gently across the front lawn of the rectory. In 1892, Henry Bull passed away, leaving the house to his son Harry Bull, and the family remained on in the house for many more years. Further sightings of other strange apparitions were recorded, including ghostly figures of headless horsemen in an old-fashioned coach drawn by 2 bay horses, and noises of dragging footsteps in empty rooms, and shuffling sounds from behind locked doors. In 1927, Harry also passed away, and the Reverend Eric Smith took up occupancy. In an effort to put an end to all the stories surrounding the house, they decided to call in the famous ghost hunter Harry Price. From the moment Harry Price entered the house, a series of ferocious poltergeist activities began. Household objects inexplicably flung themselves to the ground, pictures mysteriously dropped from their hanging places, smashing on the floor. The servants' bells jangled of their own accord, and keys flew unaided out of their locks. All of this proved too much for Reverend Eric Smith. They packed up and fled from the house, never to return. 6 months later, in 1928, there was a new arrival, the Reverend Lionel Foyster and his family. The unaccountable phenomena took on an even more violent form than before, directed in the main at the rector's young wife, Marianne. She was frequently the target for objects being thrown viciously at her. Inexplicable phenomena appeared from nowhere. Strange voices and footsteps were heard, and most strange of all, messages were found scribbled on the rectory walls. At odd hours in the night, music would be heard emanating from the empty church. And finally, the Foysters' young child was the victim of a sinister incident. In the child's words, it had been attacked by something horrible. This was the last straw for the Foysters. They packed up at once and left the rectory for good. Whereupon, the house stood empty. It soon started to run down. Then, on the 27th of February 1939, Borley Rectory burnt to the ground. In the midst of the furious blaze, several onlookers noticed strange figures moving amidst the flames and the smoke, and the cowled figure of a nun was seen staring out from an upstairs window. 4 years later, the house now only ruins, Harry Price and several helpers returned to the site to begin more investigations. Excavating beneath the cellars, they unearthed the remains of a skeleton which was that of a young woman. These remains were given a Christian burial, which was hoped would put the tortured soul to rest forever. In the churchyard itself, strange sounds of raps and pantings, furniture moved around, and loud crashes have been heard. The nun also has been seen again on many occasions, also the spectre of an elderly lady. There have also been reports of the garden being unaccountably disturbed and dug up. On the church altar, sounds of footsteps have been heard, and on approaching the altar, one investigator reported hearing the sound of a door slamming, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps, like those of a large man walking on wooden floorboards. There is an underlying feeling of evil tension and death abundant in the whole area.
Perhaps the only way to bring that matter to an end would be to turn over the whole garden area to find who or what lies within.